That title is the actual conversation that was had. The owner of this dog told family members if the dog didn't die from being starved to death, that he was gonna get his gun and go shoot him. I'm gonna quickly walk you through the details and the steps of what we did to get that dog out of the situation he was in and into a new loving home miles away in a totally different state. We did all of this in under 72 hours. The people that reached out to me are in Arkansas and I'm in Arizona. Your first thought is most likely, why didn't somebody call the police? Why isn't law enforcement getting involved? Like, if they've said this, that they're purposely starving this dog, why didn't somebody just call the police? Even if we had on recording this person saying that they were purposely starving this dog to death, and if the dog didn't die, he was gonna use his gun. Even if we had that on recording, it wouldn't matter. The guy could just say, I was just fucking around. That wasn't real, I just said that. And he could very easily get out of it. In most states, in most situations, and I've done this a lot, in most situations, unless you have video proof of that animal being physically abused, tortured, neglected, or the dog is so far gone, he has been so tortured, so mutilated, so neglected to the point where the dog might not even live anyway, those are the only two circumstances where it's actually going to hold up and the law will actually do something. In a lot of states, there's also a law called the no tethering law. That means that dogs aren't supposed to be on chains. They aren't supposed to be tied to trees, and you can get fined, you can get felony charges pressed against you if that's the case. The amount of times I've seen that law reinforced is zero. Dr. Wayne Dyer gave a speech years ago. When I heard this, it changed everything for me. He talks about ethics, and he talks about rules, and someone dictates something, and therefore it's meant to be followed because it's the rule or the law. He went on to say some of the most horrible, horrendous acts to humankind have been perpetrated on, I was just doing my job, I was just doing my job, I was just following the rules. Just because it is a rule or a law does not mean it's okay to follow it. If it's an immoral rule or law, it's fucking immoral to uphold it. So what do you do? What can you do? I'm never gonna get through this video without crying. I'm just not. You guys are just gonna have to deal with it. I'll be in here filming for weeks if I try to do that. I'll edit as much out as I can, but this is what it's gonna be. You can lobby to change the laws. You can go do that and be a part of that. And I would love it if there were people doing that, if you wanted to do that. But what's gonna happen to the situation at hand while you're doing that? What happens to that animal? The person that reached out for this was a 14-year-old little girl. It was her family member that was doing this to the dog. And it was her and her siblings that overheard the conversation of what was said. The little girl begged her grandmother for weeks, we've got to do something. The dog was dog aggressive, doesn't do well with other animals. The grandmother reached out to me on Instagram, said, I follow all your social media, this is our situation, I just don't know what to do. Oh, let me give you one more little piece of backstory I forgot. These people had already had felony charges pressed against them for animal abuse, and they didn't stick. The woman talked her way out of it. There was no time to actually put a plan together. The dog had minutes. We didn't even know if he was still alive. I told the grandmother in that conversation, I have an extra $200. Call her right now, tell her you know somebody that's dying for a German Shepherd, and offer her $200. Say she has $200 cash, we can bring it to you right now. And the grandmother said, well, what am I gonna do with the dog? She had 8 animals at her house. The grandmother rescues all kinds of animals. She said, what am I gonna do with the dog? Tomorrow morning, as soon as everything opens, you call every single vet that you can get a hold of and ask if they can take a first day appointment and ask if they have boarding. We're gonna have to board them. We'll have to, and we'll have to figure this out as it unravels. While that appointment was being booked, the owners responded to the text messages from the night before about the granddaughter and the grandmother wanting this dog. The granddaughter, the 14-year-old girl, was the one that handled this negotiation. And she looped that conversation over and over and over until she got what she wanted. Within hours, the grandma and the 14-year-old little girl had the dog in the backseat of their car. They sent me a picture and said, we are on our way to the vet. Chanel Animal Hospital welcomed us with open arms. I took this information and I immediately went to Facebook, to Instagram, and TikTok and said, you guys, this dog was being starved to death. This 14-year-old girl just pulled a fucking Hail Mary. We need some help because we have a vet bill. I don't know what it's gonna cost and we're gonna have to pay for that. In addition, we need someone that wants this dog. We need a rescue, a foster, an adopter. We need some help. Not only did social media rally and pull together and give us the money to cover the almost $700 that it cost for his vet expenses and the couple days that he was there for boarding, but we found an adopter. The adopter happens to be someone that I met through social media. She started following a story that I posted several months back. Then she took my 3-week virtual training course, so I knew her through that, and then she took my Leash Foundation course. Remember, we were told this dog doesn't do well with other animals, specifically male dogs. The adopter has a male dog and she has some cats. The reason this adopter was such a bulletproof choice was because she didn't come to this situation with, how can I be the hero? How can I feel good about this? How can I do something great? She came to it with, I know I'm gonna have to make adjustments in my life and I know it's gonna be really hard, but how can I be the best version of myself so that I can help this dog? The last hurdle that we had to tackle was transport. Transport can be very expensive, time consuming, and a lot of times you actually have to book it out far in advance, and the transport services need to know if the dog has vaccinations, are they cleared to actually leave the state. We didn't have time for any of that. So once again, I went to social media. This beautiful human showed up in my DMs and she said, hey, I used to drive for a living. I would love to do this. It gives me an opportunity to go see family that I have up north anyway. What you're seeing right here is skills that the owner learned from taking the Leash Foundation course. If you have not taken that course, you guys, I highly suggest you do it. It's 20 bucks, it's 7 videos, it's yours forever. The link is in the description below. In less than 72 hours, this dog went from literally being starved to death to being set up in a home out of state with an owner that is so in love with him already, she can't hardly see straight, and he's gonna be set up for success for the rest of his life, all because one 14-year-old girl said something. If you found any part of this video helpful, like it, subscribe to this channel, share this video with someone, share it on your social media platforms. You know that there's content in here that people need to hear. And at the end of the day, remember, if you want to do better by dogs, say something. You don't always have to do all of it, but there's always something you can do. And if you want to see the training protocols that we're going to implement with this dog to create a cohesive pack where they can actually coexist together, keep following this channel.